All right, welcome back, everyone. So I wanted to do this video for a while now, actually, but I decided I wanted to be very, very careful about it because I think that the left gets attacked by the right enough, and I don't think the left needs to be attacked by the left. I think we all know what woke schools are and all that sort of shit. So this is not for the sake of political stuff. This is for the sake of philosophy. And I want to talk about Vaush. I've actually, believe it or not, I hadn't really heard of Vaush or gotten into any of his stuff until recently. And I've been kind of binge watching it. And I think that there's things that he does I wish he would do differently, because not only would it help him out, but it would also help the argumentation of the left. One of the problems that we see with argumentation, logic, critical thinking, philosophy, debate in general, if you have a position that you can't defend, like when someone asks you a very simple question and you can't defend it, I'd say that you have a pretty bad position, especially when you have like a conspiracy theorist or something like that questioning you on your position and you can't answer a question that a conspiracy theorist asks you. It's like, it's a pretty weak position. We should be able to answer simple questions. I didn't want to make this about politics, so I want to make it about something else. And I don't think Vaush will ever see my video. I don't think he will talk to me. I don't think it'll get anywhere. I'm saying that, this is what I see. So, first of all, something that I see with Vaush is that he proclaims to be, I think, a moral subjectivist, atheist, moral subjectivist. Um, not a, he's I think he's against moral relativism. I've heard him say that he hates moral relativists. And okay, so you're a moral subjectivist. All right. Then what he will do is he will say, because I'm on the left, I am a leftist, therefore I am a better person than you. Or I've even seen him do this with other, and they go back and forth on this. Like, I'm so far left, I'm a better person than you. No, I'm further left, therefore I'm better than you. This is not moral subjectivism. That's moral objectivity. And it's turning politics into dogmatism. Being a moral objectivist is where, your morality becomes objective. It's no longer subjective. It's immutable. It's immovable. It's this is turning politics into dogma. It's saying that, if you don't follow this particular line of thinking, if you don't fall within this bracket, you don't follow these guidelines, then you're not with the tribe. And if you're not with the tribe, then you're just wrong. Period. That's a secularist religion. That's dogmatic. It's dogmatic. It's also not moral subjectivity. It's moral objectivity. When you say, when you are fixating a political position to a moral position or ethical position, you are not participating in moral subjectivity. You are participating in moral objectivism. Which is fine. If you're a moral objectivist, that's fine. There's plenty of theists and other secular dogmatic religions out there, secularist religions, that participate in moral objectivity. That kind of comes with the territory. I'm just saying you can't be both. You can't be a moral subjectivist and a moral objectivist at the same time. It's just a matter of either one, come out and say that you're a moral objectivist and be done with it. Say, yes, I do equate my political position to being morally superior. And that if people don't follow my particular subscribed path of political ideology, I do view them as being ethically unacceptable. They are immoral, and it's immutable. It's not movable. There is no. I'm not going to allow for logic and rationality to dictate otherwise. I personally don't have that stance. I've talked to right-leaning people. I don't think that everyone who's right-leaning is a bigot or a fascist or a neo-Nazi or something like that. There's a lot of right-leaning people I've talked to, and I disagree with them. But the thing is what I look for is that their heart is in the right place. I am a moral subjectivist. Is that what I look for? Is that are they doing this for humanitarian purposes? Are they doing this because they're empathizing and they're sympathizing? Most of the time, it's coming from a good place. Most of the time, they have their idea because they think it will help society out. They think it'll help the people out, the individuals out. They think that this will work, that this will be beneficial, not just for society as a whole, but for everybody. And I don't know that that's, even from a moral subjective standpoint, I don't know that you can say that that's morally bad. You know, that they mean well. These are not neo-Nazis or fascists that are like, we just don't like gay people and we think that they should die. Okay, they're, you know, that stance comes from a moral objectivist position where they think that, you know, they're immovable, they're immutable. They think the act of homosexuality is just sick. Like you're sick in the head. There's something wrong with you. That's the neo-Nazi sort of white nationalist approach to it. Is that it's just deplorable. Period. You know, it's moral objectivity. These people that I'm talking about, it's like they don't have this feeling towards LGBT people at all. They don't think this. They think that their right-leaning approach is absolutely 100%, you know, regardless if you're a person of color, regardless if you're LGBT, regardless, you know, any of that. This will help everyone. This will help society, and they're ultimately looking out for the best interest of everyone. I can't say that that's immoral. You know, from their perspective, that's moral, and they're doing it for moral reasons. What I would say was moral good. They're not trying to hurt people or harm people. The neo-Nazis, the white nationalists, they're actually trying to hurt people. So that's one option that Vaush could have, is that he could take the position of saying, okay, yes, I am a moral objectivist. I do participate in dogmatic politicism, and that politics for me is a sense of dogma. It's a religious position. It's immutable, you know. Or he could come out and say, oops, I didn't realize that. And maybe I need to rephrase or restructure some of my arguments so that I'm not making a causal link or correlative link between my political position and ethics. That's the way that I view. I mean, you could argue this if you want, but you'd be hard pressed to do it. Really, the moment you do that, the moment you fixate your moral or ethical position beyond moral objectivity or the moment you fixate your morality to something else, you've basically thrown moral objectivity out the window. It's exactly what Christians do. It's what religious people do. That is moral objectivism. You know, and the thing is there are logical and rational explanations as to why, just because someone is um, to the right of you, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are unethical or immoral. To take that position is a very, very, very bizarre position to try and proclaim moral subjectivity. It just can't be done. It's moral objectivism. So, like I said, either come out and say, oops, I need to rephrase some things because, yes, that's correct, or no, you're right, I'm a moral objectivist. Those are the two options that could be had there. The other thing that I've noticed in watching Vaush's debates that is just, well, that the moral objectivity thing, saying I'm a moral subjectivist and then being a moral objectivist, that's like nails on a fucking chalkboard to me. But the thing that I think, and this criticism, if he ever does watch this, which he probably won't because I'm a tiny channel, I don't matter, but a criticism that I would give that I think would help him out greatly if he actually did this. One of the problems that I see, he was for example he was, for example, debating the guy who made Earthworm Jim. And apparently this guy is a conservative. And one of the arguments that he made was, well, he asked the question, he said, why do you think it is that all the free market capitalists are the ones that were not wearing masks, and all the, leftists, not all leftists are anti-capitalist, but all the leftists were the ones that were wearing them? His immediate go-to response was basically, well, like, I don't know, because maybe everybody on the right, or when you hear the term like free market capitalist, it's like, okay, free market capitalist, right wing, conservative, Republican, whatever. So, okay. Um, he says, well, maybe because they're all fucking stupid. I don't think I think you lost at that point. You've lost the debate. Or maybe you won the debate, but you've lost, or you won the argument, but you lost the debate. At that point, when you say that, you have abandoned logic and reason, and you have resorted to something entirely different. You're not arguing that the point of philosophy, the point of debate, is to put forward the most logical and rational argument possible. The point of the debate, too, is not to persuade your opponent necessarily, it's to persuade the audience. So the audience is listening to both of you, and the person who makes the most logical and factual, the best argument, what you want is the audience member to walk away and think like you want to be the one causing the audience to walk away going, man, that guy really made me think. He's making me think about things in a different way. He's making my gears turn on this. I think there's something about what he's saying that I need to look into. I'm going to go with this guy because he's making very rational arguments, very logical arguments. But when you say, I don't know, because maybe they're fucking stupid. Okay, this is turning into WWE SmackDown with words instead of physical violence, and it's like that's not a logical argument. That's not a rational argument. That's not an argument at all. That's just an insult. So, I mean, can you imagine if Christopher Hitchens did that when he was debating the theists? If he just came out and said, well, I don't know, maybe because they're fucking stupid. So, it's not a way that you win. It's not, it's bad form. What I would have done personally if I was debating him is I would have said, well, I would have brought facts, which actually I would have said, well, no, actually what we see in reality, because COVID and all that stuff was so politicized, not just on mainstream media, on social media too. A lot of stuff got lost. Like, that's actually not the case at all. We did have leftists that weren't wearing masks. We did have leftists that weren't getting vaccinated. There were right-leaning people, market capitalists, that were wearing masks. And there were right-leaning people that were getting vaccinated as well. That's the reality. And it got politicized in so many different ways. Like, I told somebody in my family that's a leftist as well that I didn't want to get the COVID vaccination, and she said that I was a science science denier. She said I was an anti-vaxxer. She said I was a Trump supporter. She said a bunch of things that I just wasn't, and it's hilarious to me. I was like, I'm none of those things. If you want to give me a vaccine for, let's say, for smallpox, yeah, I'll get the vaccine for that when it's time. I'm not a that. I don't think I'm. Well, I'm getting close, so I don't know. If you want to give me a tetanus shot, I'll absolutely accept that because I know that it works. I wasn't entirely sure. I was a bit skeptical on the COVID vaccination. It's not because I'm a science denier. It's because I understand science and I understand how vaccines work. And we have a really hard time making vaccinations for viruses. And there's actually a really good reason why I was very hesitant to get. I did eventually get a COVID vaccine, but there's a reason why I was hesitant. But it didn't have anything to do with politics. It had to do with me personally. And like, I don't get the flu vaccine. The flu vaccines make me sick. So if I get the flu vaccine over and over, I keep getting sick. If I don't get the flu vaccine, I don't get sick. So easy solution, don't get the flu vaccine. My concern is that the COVID vaccine was going to work in a similar way. And a lot of leftists, they had some pretty good reasons why they weren't getting vaccinated as well. A lot of them were concerned about what they were going to do financially if they had to take time off of work, or what they were going to do for childcare and et cetera, et cetera. These were real concerns for people who didn't make enough money to miss out on work, or didn't make enough money to do something with their kids should they get it or experience a negative side effect or something like that. And I think a lot of people didn't want to wear the masks, and they were annoying. So, that there was stuff on the right too that politicized it, saying things like, well, masks are tyranny. It's like, well, that's a bit extreme. Is mandating masks authoritarian? Yeah, it is. It's an authoritarian push. Is it tyranny? No, it's not tyranny. They're not. If you're not wearing a mask, they're not lining the people. They weren't lining people up into a fucking oven because you weren't wearing a mask. That wasn't what was happening. That we didn't have a police state. Like here in this city, I don't know about other cities, but here in this city, there were so many people walking around with their masks on their chin that the police just stopped giving a fuck about it. I mean, nobody did anything. It was not enforced here. There was a mask mandate, but nobody was really doing it. A lot of people were, but there were so many that weren't. They stopped trying to even enforce it. It was mostly companies that were enforcing it, not the actual police. um, but that was the reality. It wasn't just the right-wing people that weren't wearing masks. There were people on the left that weren't wearing masks either. There were people on the left that didn't get vaccines, just the same as there were people on the right that were getting vaccines and that were wearing masks. So that's not true. It wasn't just free market capitalists that were wearing masks. What you saw was sort of a gray spectrum. Like it was a spectrum. You had leftists doing it, you had right-wing people doing it, you had leftists not doing it, you had right-wing people not doing it. It was a swirl thing. So I don't know that it had anything to do with politics. I think it was more to do with individual choice and freedom than anything, like individual preference. I don't think it had anything to do with your political position. And trying to say that it had anything to do with your political position is what partly politicized it. And I think that that type of argument would also push someone like him to go, oh, well, you know, because he admitted this guy that made Earthworm, he admitted he doesn't study this stuff. He doesn't study political stuff. He's just arguing based off of what he sees around social media and his life and whatnot. So arguing this or telling him the fact of that is true, and that might have got him to question things a little bit, because he was really fixated on the John Hopkins um, chart that was monitoring the COVID outbreak and its movement, and he was just focusing on the one hump that came around and did this, and didn't look at it when it went back up, and said, no, I know it. They all do this. They all do this. It's like, well, that's just one part of the graph. It continues. So getting him to say, well, oh, I didn't know that, and gets him to start saying, well, what else? You know, what else is it that I don't know? And maybe there's things I thought I knew that I actually don't know. Getting him to, you know, push the envelope and question. And you can't do that by saying you're dumb shit. You do that by putting facts and arguing logic, and arguing reasonably. That's what I would have done. And I think a lot of the times when I see YouTubers doing this sort of WWE SmackDown, debate-ster-bation is what someone called it. On there's somebody that me and Cassandra follow on Twitter. They called it debate-ster-bation. I don't know if they coined that term, but I like it. That's what I see a lot in this. Is it's not really debate; it's more like audience pandering, and that sort of falls into a line of propaganda. And it's like, well, if you really want to produce arguments that convince people on the right, well, oh, maybe this leftist has a point, maybe calling them dumb shits is not what you should be doing. Maybe, you know, like bringing up facts and arguing as best you can logic and rationality. And I think that's a better strategy. I think if you were in an actual symposium, like my friend Cassandra brought this up, if he was in an actual symposium back in Greece, he probably would have been laughed out and not taken very seriously. Like I said, I don't want to argue against his political positions, because I actually agree with a lot of his political positions. I think some of his tactics are what I'm criticizing here. Another thing that I find kind of bothersome is, like, for instance, okay, I'm a leftist. I've never said that I'm against capitalism. I don't know that you can get rid of capitalism. I don't know that you can. I propose regulation on capitalism. I propose strengthening our social safety net, you know, our socialism in this country, because we have a mixed economy of capitalism and socialism. I look at capitalism like it's a wild horse that needs to be tamed. And I think that the socialism in this country needs to be better. I think it does. I do. So that's what I propose, but I don't sit there and say, "Oh, we should get capitalism is shit. We should just get rid of it." I don't know that Vaush has argued that, by the way, but I think he is really hard on capitalism, and I'm glad that he is. But I don't understand. Like, I've been in conflict about this with my own personal YouTube channel. Is that, like, when I hit like the 300 subscriber count back in the day, it was like, yes, I've got ad revenue. Well, YouTube has changed its stuff, and so no longer do I get ad revenue. I'm okay with doing this and making money through ad revenue, because the advertising agencies should be paying me to run their shit on my channel, because I hate them. And so it's like, if you want to run your ads on my channel, I hate fucking commercialism. I fucking hate it. You want to run your ads on my channel, compensate me monetarily. I think that's fair. It's not a lot of money, by the way. If you don't know, it's not a lot of money. Not at 300 subscribers, not at my view count anyway. But I went over to a friend's house and see, I have YouTube Premium because I can't stand advertisements, and I do everything in my power to avoid them. I don't necessarily pirate, but I will do everything in my power to avoid fucking advertisements. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but I try everything I can to avoid them because I fucking hate commercials. I fucking hate them. And so here's a person that is like, I can't rationalize having a Patreon for this either. Like if my channel got big enough, I might have a Patreon where I sell poster copies of my artwork, or maybe get a book published of my poetry or something like that. And I would set up a Patreon so people could buy my merchandise through Patreon. I could see that. It's an exchange, like I'd have a piece of artwork, an exchange of monetary value. I can see using Patreon for that. I cannot rationalize using Patreon for me to come on here, talk about philosophy, critical thinking, or tell you about my life, or give you my personal opinion on something and charge you money for it. I can't rationalize that. And what a lot of these YouTubers are doing, they go on these live streams. It's like nothing but live streams. They do live streams on one type of on one YouTube channel that they have, and then they cut it down and they release a video on their main stream, on their main channel of the live stream cut down, and so they sell that on their Patreon and get money there for that video. But the live streaming is for that super chat money. Now I know you can't stop people from donating to your super chat, but I find it kind of hypocritical when somebody is so critical and skeptical and criticizes capitalism to that level and then turns around and says, I'm angry because these people are watching this content on this channel and not donating anything to Patreon. I'm angry because they're not in my super chat donating money to me. I am only doing this to make money, and I've got a 401k, and I'm going to do this as long as possible or until I can't. I find it really interesting that the leftists is saying, I'm not going to get rid of, I don't think you can get rid of capitalism, is actively being more anti-capitalist than a leftist that criticizes capitalism more is. I find that interesting. Correct me if I'm wrong. Absolutely correct me if I'm wrong down in the comment section. Explain how I am incorrect about this. But I'm trying to avoid commercials. I'm trying to avoid ads. If there's ads that run on my channel, I don't know about it. I have YouTube Premium. I don't know. I pay that extra money so I don't have to watch fucking commercials. I don't see that money. If there's ads running on my channel, I don't see it because I only have, 300 something subscribers, or, I know my view count. Some of the view counts on some of my videos are really high. I don't see any of that money. I don't get it. But I don't have a Patreon. I don't do live streams and collect super chats. I don't do that. I can't rationalize that. When he argues, and I'm glad he argues this. I love that he argues this. He says the average American does not have access to a $300 emergency fund, and then turns around and says, I'm really upset that you're not giving me money in my super chat. I kind of have a problem with that. I find that deeply hypocritical, and I find that kind of insulting too. It makes me think of an episode of South Park, as the bullying episode where Stan finds out that Butters is being bullied, creates this video. It's going viral. He gets a deal with Hollywood. He's going to make a ton of money off of it. And Kyle tries to approach him and be like, like, you're fucking up here. And Kyle says to him this. He says, well, if it's so important that you think everyone needs to see it, why don't you put it up on the internet for free? And I think it's really important that the left does stop engaging in this whole censorship thing. Like Mr. Medicare, Jim, the internet aristocrat, he has made some god awful videos of just pure confirmation bias. And he is still recruiting people over on BitChute now that he's off of YouTube platform. And I think leftists like Vaush and ContraPoints, even someone like myself, I've already made a video correcting Jim about his positivity video. He has basically a redone version of that called Slip and Slide on BitChute. He has one hell of a really fucking hateful video on trans people. And it's just full of confirmation bias. It's just, let me find the worst case scenario out there and paint it up like this is the entire thing. People need to come forward and deconstruct these arguments and give the real facts and be intellectually honest. This is where the left is losing. By kicking him off of YouTube and pushing him over to BitChute, it hasn't silenced him. He's still recruiting people into that ideology because there's nobody there to challenge him. We need people to correct what he's saying and say, hold on a minute, before you go buying into Jim's confirmation bias, hear me out. Okay, so like, for instance, 61% of people with HIV are gay or bisexual men. That's true. But let's flip that around, and I'll show you how this works. That does not mean that 61% of gay and bisexual men are HIV positive. Do you see how that works? That's a statistic bias. And you can get that by how you present them. If you say 61% of people with HIV are gay or bisexual men, people get this confused. They go, oh, so like a huge percentage of gay and bisexual men are HIV positive. No, not necessarily. That just means that the majority of people with HIV are gay and bisexual men. That doesn't mean that the majority of gay and bisexual men are HIV positive. So we have to be able to be honest about this stuff. We have to get these people out of that echo chamber, and by pushing them away, like it's like a snake that keeps giving birth to little babies, and we keep killing these little babies, but we're not killing the what's producing them. And you've got a lot of like I could go on and on about this, but so I'm glad that Vaush is out there arguing these points. I really am. It's important to bring up the fact that, yeah, most Americans don't have access to a $300 emergency fund, and that is a problem. Our economy is pretty trashed. And the social safety net, the socialism in this country is only but one way to deal with it. Regulations is another way to deal with it. Unions are another way to deal with it. And the right, not every right-leaning person has a problem with that. There's aspects to those that they have a problem with, and that is preserving individual rights, liberties, and freedoms. And that's not hard to do. But allowing people like Jim to continue on spewing bullshit unchallenged is unacceptable. And there are things that are not being discussed in the left that should be, like what I've brought up about the opiate epidemic, the other side, the chronic pain patients and what they're going through, or tent cities. We're not addressing these things. And I think that that's something that needs to be addressed. I think that's something that the left should be talking about. And I think, honestly, the right and the left both have a problem with the oligarchy. The right and the left both have a problem with crony capitalism. The thing that we really truly differ on is what to do about it. And if you actually have a productive and proactive conversation, you'll find out that, well, there are actually things that we can agree on, and that's way more productive and proactive when we can come to a compromise. Like I said, the point of a debate is to put forward the most logical and most rational argument that you possibly can, packed with as much facts as you possibly can. That's actual philosophy. Stay away from the appeal to emotive force. Like the whole, like, a lot of the stuff the left did, if you didn't want to get vaccinated, was appeal to emotive force. That's a fallacy. Um, a lot of people call straw man fallacy. Most people don't realize there's, I think, 3 different types of straw man fallacies. There's begging the question. That's basically circular reasoning. It's where your argument presents more questions than it answers, and you come back around full circle. Like you just can't get your question answered. Just facts, and you don't always have to necessarily respond to your opponent. I don't know. I'm not going to give a lesson on how to do philosophy and debate, but just I don't know. I would love to have a conversation with Vaush. I would love to have a conversation with him. I would love to talk about tent cities. I would love to talk about the chronic pain patients and Dolph and what Kings County is doing. I would love to talk about those things. Probably won't get to. He probably won't even see this video. I'm non-existent. I'm a tiny channel, but I thought I would put this out there so you can go and you can pay attention to it. Like pay attention to this stuff. And it would be nice to get, some people that are debating for the left that can be more proactive about it. And I think Vaush has the capability there. I think he's intelligent. He knows what he's talking about. I just wish he would stop resorting to calling people dumb fucks or whatever have you. So anyway, like, share, subscribe if you want, and all that, and comment, bell button, blah 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 blah. That I'm